Once upon a time, in a small town known as Whimsyville, there lived a peculiar and bumbling professor named Algernon Bumblefumble. With his wild hair, mismatched socks, and a knack for causing chaos wherever he went, he was both loved and feared by the townspeople. One sunny morning, Professor Bumblefumble woke up with an unusual craving for jelly beans. He rummaged through his cupboards but found his jelly bean stash completely empty. Determined to satisfy his sweet tooth, he decided to visit the local candy store. As the professor walked down the street, the townspeople could sense trouble brewing. They peered out from behind their curtains, knowing that wherever Bumblefumble went, hilarity was bound to ensue. Arriving at the candy store, Professor Bumblefumble's eyes widened in awe at the colorful array of candies that awaited him. Unable to contain his excitement, he jumped up and down like a child, accidentally knocking over a display of gummy worms. They slithered across the floor, creating a sugary obstacle course for anyone daring to enter. The store owner, Mr. Pumpernickel, who was used to the professor's antics, sighed and rolled his eyes. "Oh, Professor Bumblefumble, what have you done this time?" But Professor Bumblefumble didn't hear him. He was too busy chasing after the runaway gummy worms. He hopped from aisle to aisle, slipping and sliding, creating a comical scene that left everyone in stitches. Finally, with a triumphant cry, Bumblefumble managed to catch all the gummy worms in a giant, sticky ball. He proudly presented his creation to Mr. Pumpernickel, who couldn't help but chuckle. Meanwhile, outside the candy store, a parade was passing by. The townspeople watched in amusement as Professor Bumblefumble, unaware of the commotion he was causing, rolled the gummy worm ball out of the store and right into the path of the marching band. The musicians stumbled and fell, instruments flying in all directions. The chaos continued as the townspeople joined the parade, marching behind the professor and his gummy worm ball. They danced, sang, and laughed, creating an impromptu carnival in the middle of the street. Whimsyville had never seen such merriment. Word of the professor's latest escapade spread throughout the town like wildfire. People gathered from far and wide to witness the next chapter in the chronicles of Professor Bumblefumble. Emboldened by the attention, Bumblefumble decided to throw a grand feast for the townspeople. He spent the next few days concocting his signature dish, a jelly bean casserole. The recipe was a closely guarded secret, passed down through generations of Bumblefumbles. On the day of the feast, the townspeople gathered in the town square, eagerly awaiting their share of the famous jelly bean casserole. Professor Bumblefumble, dressed in a chef's hat and a mismatched apron, emerged from his laboratory, carrying an enormous tray filled with his creation. As he walked towards the table, disaster struck. Professor Bumblefumble tripped over his own shoelaces and sent the tray flying through the air. Jelly beans rained down on the crowd like a colorful meteor shower, covering everyone from head to toe. The townspeople erupted in laughter, rolling on the ground, covered in jelly beans of every imaginable flavor. Professor Bumblefumble, looking bewildered, tried to apologize, but his words were lost in the sea of laughter. In the end, the townspeople forgave Professor Bumblefumble for his countless misadventures. They realized that life in Whimsyville would never be the same without his quirky presence. And so, they continued to embrace the chaos and laughter that came with every encounter with the lovable, bumbling professor. And that, dear viewer, is the tale of Professor Algernon Bumblefumble, a man who turned the ordinary into the extraordinary and brought joy and laughter to the lives of all who crossed his path in the whimsical town of Whimsyville.